Tonight, why 4 Canadian citizens were given the death penalty in China.
We strongly condemn the execution.
A former political hostage once held by the Chinese speaks out.
This is Beijing demonstrating once again that it never misses an opportunity to miss an opportunity.
What it means for ongoing diplomatic tensions. Plus, the American president stirs Canada's political pot.
The Conservative that's running is stupidly no friend of mine.
I'm a tough guy to deal with.
Is Trump's party preference a double-edged sword ahead of an imminent election? How allegations of manipulation and coercion traumatize survivors of a so-called sex cult.
Nobody was any closer to their twin flame or any relationships.
A bold robbery gone horribly bad and the high-risk takedown in Toronto. And basking in broomball glory.
We used to be a little Debden team that nobody knew, and now we're kind of a big deal.
How one Canadian team is sweeping away the competition.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina. Reporting tonight, Todd Vanderhayden.
Good evening. The federal government is condemning China for executing 4 Canadians. They were sentenced on drug-related charges put to death earlier this year. CTV's Rachel Aiello with what we know and why some are warning it's a sign that China is not interested in improving relations.
We strongly condemn the execution.
Canada's foreign minister confirmed today 4 Canadians were executed in China earlier this year. All dual citizens charged with drug-related crimes.
This is an issue that I've been following very, very closely personally for months.
In a statement, Global Affairs said Canada strongly condemns China's use of the death penalty and insisted Canada repeatedly called for clemency for these individuals at the senior-most levels. Joly said that top-level diplomacy included outreach from both her and then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. The government says Canadian officials are providing consular assistance to the victims' families. Speaking as someone who spent more than 1,000 days detained in China, Michael Kovrig called China's actions completely unnecessary.
This is Beijing demonstrating once again that it never misses an opportunity to miss an opportunity.
China's embassy in Ottawa also confirmed the executions, stating the country always imposes severe penalties for drug crimes. The embassy said the facts in these cases were clear and the evidence was sufficient, and said Chinese authorities fully guaranteed the rights and interests of the Canadian nationals concerned.
While China executes more people than any other country in the world, it is rare for them to do this with foreigners, so this is a deeply troubling development.
Those who keep close tabs on Beijing are concerned for the more than 100 Canadians in Chinese prisons right now, and warn these killings are a sign efforts to repair relations may not go far.
The timing of the execution, I don't think is accidental. It's just to show to Canada, look, you will have to make concessions if you want to see the relationship improve.
The Canadian government has confirmed that Robert Schellenberg of Abbotsford, BC, who was sentenced to death by a Chinese court in 2019 for drug smuggling, was not one of the Canadians executed. Todd?
CTV's Rachel Aiello in Ottawa. Thanks, Rachel. Swift reaction today to President Trump's comments on Fox News last night, saying he would prefer a Liberal government over a Conservative one in Canada. CTV's Judy Trin looking into how it's playing and how it's being played.
With Canada and the U.S. locked in a trade war, President Donald Trump prefers one candidate over the other.
The Conservative that's running is stupidly no friend of mine. I don't know him, but he said negative things. So when he says negative things, I couldn't care less. I think it's easier to deal, actually, with a Liberal.
Thanks very much, guys.
During a visit to Northern Ontario, the opposition leader seized the chance to take on Trump's comments head on.
It's clear that President Trump wants the Liberals in power because they will keep this country weak. I'm a tough guy to deal with.
Really? I don't know. I've seen him for 10 years. They don't look very tough to me.
Cabinet ministers stepped in to respond before meeting with Prime Minister Mark Carney, who remained behind closed doors. With a snap election expected, the Liberals have been running attack ads like this.
Everything is broken.
Everything is broken.
Some analysts say Trump's comments will help Pierre Poilievre fight back.
The Liberal campaign is looking to make any link they can between Mr. Poilievre and Mr. Trump. as are a number of third-party organizations right now. And this undermines all of that.
Since this November meeting in Mar-a-Lago, Trump has been talking about turning Canada into the 51st state. Then he imposed 25% tariffs in March, and more protectionist measures are expected in weeks. This Washington analyst says, consider Trump's words as negotiating tactics.
Create uncertainty, knock your negotiating partner or opponent off balance, and then try and swoop in and take the best deal that you can get.
Since being sworn in, Prime Minister Carney has traveled overseas to meet with the leaders of Britain and France, but has not spoken to the American president. According to several polls, the top issue for Canadians is dealing with Donald Trump. Todd.
CTV's Judy Trin in the Capitol. Thanks, Judy. Trump's tariff war and a change of leader appear to be helping the Liberals. In December, they were nearly 30 points behind the Conservatives, but some pollsters now have them in the lead. Take a look. New numbers from Leger and Angus Reid both have the Liberals at 42%, the Conservatives between 37 and 39%. But the latest Nanos figures do show a tighter race, the Conservatives at 35%, the Liberals at 34%, and the NDP at 16%. Well, many Canadians are choosing to buy homegrown brands nowadays, including alcohol, to send a message to the U.S. But for restaurant owners, doing the same is hard because of internal trade barriers. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth has more on the barriers at the bar.
Vineyard General Manager Will Roman says the sale of alcohol in Canada is inefficient and is limiting his profitability.
I'm not set up for success because of that.
Wineries like this one in Lincoln, Ontario are not allowed to deal directly with most bars and restaurants in other provinces. They must first sell to the local provincially run distributor. Finding improvements for interprovincial trade was the focus at this panel discussion in Halifax.
I can't say how many times I've heard it's easier for me to access Alabama than Alberta.
In Nova Scotia, government rules require all booze to flow through the Nova Scotia Liquor Corporation before being sold.
If we were able to get that easier at a more affordable price that we could introduce our guests to, then that would be a win for everyone.
Bar owner Jeff Van Horn believes removing some of these trade barriers could help his bottom line and offer support for small businesses across the country.
We wouldn't be serving our community if we weren't serving products that are local and support the Canadian economy.
Selling first to the Nova Scotia Liquor Corporation instead of directly to small businesses can also cause delivery delays.
They cannot contact us directly and be like, hey, Rosewood, we want to order this product at this amount of cases.
Roman also can't offer bars and restaurants a cheaper deal. Nova Scotia Premier Tim Houston says he's working on a solution as provinces struggle through some of the same hurdles in the U.S.-Canada trade war.
Free trade in Canada. It's one country. We should trade freely within our countries.
Houston is calling for sweeping changes to trade barriers in general, not just the rules that impact the sale of alcohol. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
Meantime, a Vancouver-based company is pulling a new ad after a marketing misfire.
Maybe the ad manager there needs a little coaching on what's funny and what's not.
Yeah, I don't know how they got permission to put that up. It's pretty bad.
The poster from gummy vitamin company Herbaland reads, proudly made in open bracket the 51st state, which is then crossed out Canada, close bracket. A company apologized amid the backlash, saying it was meant to stand up to Trump's threats of annexation. To Russia's war against Ukraine now, the two sides inching toward a possible ceasefire brokered by the U.S. Ukraine's president spoke to Donald Trump today. That's a positive sign. For now, though, the fighting continues. CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Malbin on the Zelensky-Putin-Trump trifecta.
It was a positive sign. Ukraine bringing home prisoners of war in a swap with Moscow, one of the largest exchanges since Russia invaded. This as President Trump described his hour-long conversation with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky as a very good telephone call, adding they're very much on track to get Russia and Kyiv on the same page towards peace. Far cry from their explosive blow-up in the Oval Office just weeks ago.
Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning. You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President.
Zelensky agreed to stop attacks on Russian energy infrastructure one day after Vladimir Putin agreed to the same. But both sides accuse each other of continuing the fight, striking residential areas and a Ukraine power station overnight. President Trump making an unusual offer to Zelensky, a takeover of Ukraine's nuclear power plants.
He said that the United States could be very helpful in running those plants with its electricity and utility expertise. American ownership of those plants would be the best protection for that infrastructure.
Despite verbal agreements by Putin, Ukrainians have little faith in his word, and the Kremlin still has conditions that Ukraine be cut off from Western weapons and intelligence. And yet the president can't say enough about Putin.
Talked about a lot of things and toward getting it to peace. Putin actually said to me, if you're my friend, I'd hate to see you as my enemy.
It's not clear when this temporary ceasefire will take hold. There'll be further talks in Saudi Arabia this weekend. President Trump, though, is optimistic he can get a full ceasefire within 2 weeks. Todd?
Joy Malbon in Washington. Thanks, Joy. Israel has launched its first ground offensive in Gaza since the ceasefire collapsed after a wave of Israeli airstrikes yesterday. Protesters clashed with police today in Jerusalem over Israel's decision to resume the war. Israel released footage today of troops on patrol in Gaza. It comes a day after Israeli airstrikes killed 400 people, according to the Hamas-run health ministry.
They're masked up. They're looking to do something.
Back here at home, police in Toronto have released footage of a dramatic takedown of multiple suspects allegedly trying to break into a jewelry store. An undercover police truck crashes into a vehicle before officers swarm the suspects. 6 teenagers were arrested. And 2 suspects have been arrested in Montreal after this Tesla dealership was splashed with paint. There have been violent attacks on Tesla dealerships in the U.S. and Europe over owner Elon Musk's role in the Trump administration. Meantime, CTV News recently reported on a suspicious spike in Tesla sales in Canada ahead of the deadline for a federal EV rebate program, with Ottawa potentially sending more than $40 million to the U.S. car giant. CTV's Adrian Gobriel with how Canadian-owned car dealerships have been left behind.
Row upon row of brand new Teslas line this lot in Laval, Quebec. In Toronto, a similar scene at the parking lot of an abandoned strip mall across the street from a corporate Tesla location.
All suggest a very unusual level of activity.
On Friday, January 10th, car dealerships across the country received this email from Transport Canada, saying due to the high uptake, the IZEV program will be paused in a few weeks. By that Monday, the program was closed, but not before a handful of Tesla locations across Canada reported the sale of 8,600 vehicles over that single weekend, amounting to $43 million in government rebates.
That doesn't match normal market conditions.
We were completely devastated.
We spoke to this dealership owner not associated with Tesla, who asked we hide their identity. His independent dealership is one of more than 200 across the country who say they're now out of pocket $10 million because they didn't have time to process their EV sales.
In my case, we're talking over $400,000 loss. Huge impact.
As part of the rebate program, dealers had to front a $5,000 rebate to customers on the promise the government would repay each dealership.
Questions have to be answered. Was the integrity of the program respected? Was Tesla tipped off? Was there a gaming of the system?
Earlier this month, CTV News paid this Toronto area Tesla location a visit.
Are you able to tell me when you can't say anything? You can't say anything at all?
Multiple emails to Tesla have gone unanswered. CTV News asked Transport Canada if Tesla has already been paid the $43 million in taxpayer-funded rebates. They've yet to answer that question. As for the $10 million independent dealerships say they're owed, Transport Canada says they're examining their claims. Adrian Gobriel, CTV News, Toronto.
A judge in Ontario has delayed the decision on a proposal by Hudson's Bay to liquidate its stores. Stakeholders have now been given until Friday to continue what they call constructive discussions. Canada's oldest company hopes to keep some stores open and avoid full liquidation. Financial struggles forcing the store to file for creditor protection earlier this month. All right, coming up, from devotion to deception.
Was this not a sex cult now if he's forcing partners?
Opening up about an alleged cult that offered heartbreak instead of healing. Plus, how dreams turned into reality for two Jelly Roll fans. To a W5 investigation now, former followers of an online spiritual group called Twin Flames Universe claim the whole thing is a cult. W5's Avery Haynes on the two founders who've become rich off the promise that their courses hold the secret to finding true love.
Twin Flames Universe is a mostly online spiritual community with hundreds of thousands of Facebook followers and about 2,000 paying students from around the world. For 3 years, Victoria Bonilla was one of them. She says it's a cult.
It doesn't happen overnight. You don't walk into a door and it's this full wackadoodle story. It's like the frog in the pot. You turn it 1 degree at a time, and then suddenly you're boiling.
The Twin Flames Universe promise is that if you pay for their online programs and coaching, which can cost thousands, even tens of thousands, you will heal the trauma that is keeping you from your true love. Their website is overflowing with glowing testimonials.
I manifested harmonious union with my one true love.
Rediscovered my true gender. Finally accepted myself as the divine masculine.
If you follow me, they are going to fall madly in love with you. I pinky promise.
It's a business model that has paid off for founders Jeff Devine and his Canadian wife, Shalia Devine.
Today, we just discovered that we're not just millionaires, we're multi-millionaires.
Their Instagram feed is a non-stop highlight reel of luxury.
Yeah. Lifestyle of the multi-millionaires, of the rich and famous.
From a spiritual matchmaking group, Jeff and Shalia's teachings have become more religious. And more outrageous, with Jeff comparing himself to Jesus.
Has Christ come again? He's got the beard and the hair. Could I be the Christ? And I'm not hiding anything. Like, I'm literally telling you I'm Christ.
But rather un-Christ-like behavior is revealed in videotape sessions, where Jeff berates his followers for not volunteering enough for the movement.
My business depends on all of you. And I want to make sure that all of you are doing your jobs.
We were all working hard. Nobody was any closer to their twin flame or any relationships. So we're like, what's going on? You know, it's not working.
And then a bizarre twist. Former follower Angie Moggy, who lives in Ontario, says Jeff claimed he was getting direct messages from God and started pairing up people in the online community.
Some people are matched with complete strangers, people they'd never spoken to. There was a man, 100% like gay, matched with a cisgendered woman, and had to work through that block.
How is this not a sex cult now if he's forcing partners?
In this message to followers, Jeff and Shalia made it clear disobeying them is disobeying God.
So when God tells you something, you need to respect it. If he says that's your twin flame, respect it.
They call it the all-seeing eye for a reason. You cannot escape God's gaze. Why would you want to?
All right, coming up tomorrow, shocking allegations that Jeff and Shalia Devine have brainwashed some of their followers to change their gender from women to men. Still ahead for us, the underdog victory for a fish. How the world's ugliest animal is getting its moment in the sun. American country singer Jelly Roll with a big surprise for two students at a concert in Winnipeg.
I tell you what, you don't get student loans no more, girls. We're going to pay them off for y'all, all right?
At the show, Brianna Knott and Deandra Corshane held up signs asking for the singer to help them pay their student loans.
We obviously cried. We were hugging each other. Yeah. We dropped all of our belongings.
There's one stipulation: the University of Manitoba students have to stay in school until graduation. The two were inspired by videos of Jelly Roll interacting with other fans at his shows. And how about this one? Once dubbed the world's ugliest animal, the blobfish has now been crowned as New Zealand's Fish of the Year. The competition was held by a non-profit conservation group to raise awareness about the country's marine life. And Canada is shining at this year's March Madness College Basketball Tournament, featuring 29 players, second only to the U.S., which is hosting the competition. 16 are competing on the women's side, 13 on the men's. Silas Swords from Sudbury, Ontario is the one to watch in the women's tournament, and Ryan Nemhard of Aurora, Ontario, expected to leave his mark in the men's game. All right, still ahead, aiming for the sky in a sport that is rooted in tradition. That's next. A tiny village in Saskatchewan with a population of less than 350 is making a name for itself on the national stage. The Debden Roadrunners, a girls' broomball team, is vying for its 4th straight national championship title later this month. CTV's Alison Bamford caught up with the team at practice to find out the key to their success.
The final drills of the season before these national champions try to defend their title.
We used to be the little Debden team that nobody knew. And now we're kind of a big deal in Little Saskatchewan.
The Debden Roadrunners are vying for their 4th straight juvenile championship, unexpected from a team once considered the underdogs.
The first year, it didn't feel like too much was expected out of us because we came from such a small community.
But broomball is deeply rooted in the village of 327 people.
Lots of the girls that are playing now, their parents played in the 80s or 90s when they were teenagers themselves.
The sport mirrors hockey, but with brooms instead of sticks and shoes instead of skates. There's also contact.
I just really liked that aspect of it. You got to play rough and be really aggressive.
The national competition seems to get stronger each year in the under-20 age category, and the cards are already stacked against the Roadrunners. The team practices on natural ice, which cuts the season short by about 2 months.
We don't start practicing until December, once it's cold enough and we can actually make our own ice in the rink.
Avery!
But once they're on the ice, the team clicks, playing for themselves, each other, and an entire community behind them.
To be a part of something that big is just so beyond exciting for me.
And if they hoist the trophy for a 4th time, that will be a moment as sweet as the first.
It's always exciting every time, every year.
And it never gets old. Alison Bamford, CTV News, Debden, Saskatchewan.
Great stuff. That's our newscast on this Wednesday. I'm Todd Vanderheyden. For all of us here at CTV National, thank you for watching. And I'll see you again right here again tomorrow.
CTV National News, Canada's #1 newscast. Canada's #1 newscast for excellence in journalism.
We begin tonight with breaking news.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina, winner of the Canadian Screen Award for Best National Newscast. Watch weeknights at 11.